The smoke rose black from the fire. The scent of burning animal fat whipped across the field, and in the flickering flames, a frightened child saw the shape of something that should not walk among the living. From the ancient Celts across Ireland, Scotland, and parts of Britain, Samhain was not a quaint festival of sweets and costumes. It was a night when mortality, chaos, and the unseen world converged. According to the encyclopedic record of antiquity, Samhain, literally summer's end, was a crucial transition into the dark half of the year. It was on this night that the boundary between the living world and the other world thinned, allowing spirits, fairies, the dead, and potentially far worse to cross over. But lurking beneath the flickering bonfires and the guise of ancestral veneration were practices far more terrifying than most modern Halloween stories recall. One of the most chilling aspects of ancient Samhain, and one that modern enthusiasts often gloss over, was the role of sacrifice of animals and possibly even humans to the forces deemed to rule that night. The Encyclopedia Britannica states plainly, sacrifices and propitiations of every kind were thought to be vital, for without them, the Celts believed they could not prevail over the perils of the season or counteract the activities of the deities. What might that have looked like? One source recounts that in the mythic text, Fomorians, monstrous beings associated with chaos and darkness, demanded tribute from the people of Nemet at Samhain, 2/3 of their children, their corn, and their milk. While this may be mythological, such tales echo a very real threat that human sacrifice was at least conceivable in the ritual imagination of the time. In an academic reflection, one scholar writes, "This human victim may have been regarded as a king. The slaying of the corn spirit was derived from the earlier slaying of a tree or vegetation spirit embodied in a tree and also in a human and animal victim." We may never know exactly how widespread or systematic such rituals were, but archaeology and medieval texts hint strongly at the possibility. Archaeological evidence supports that the Celts do appear to have performed human sacrifice as part of their religious rituals. Beyond human sacrifice, there was animal sacrifice in abundance. Cattle, sheep, perhaps goats or other livestock were culled at Samhain because only the strong would survive the harsh winter. As these offerings were bound up in fear, redemption, and survival, if the ritual succeeded, the crops and the animals would live. If it failed, the dark half of the year might claim more than just chill winds. As the veil thinned, so did the sense of safety. The ancient texts mention spirits of the dead, fairies, and malevolent forces running riot on Samhain night. One assembly of Celtic myths tells the hero Nera wandering into the other world, encountering a corpse and fairies all during Samhain. The folk customs changed from simply honoring to placating and hiding from the supernatural. Costumes and disguises, animal skins, masks were not just playful, they aimed to fool the spirits or hide from them. One particularly harrowing thread, the so-called bonfires. Some authors suggest that in early rituals the term bonfire may derive from the burning of animal bones or even human remains in a ritualistic conflation of life, death, and rebirth. Witchcraft too had its place. The liminal space of Samhain was believed to give power to diviners, seers, and those who negotiated with spirits. Those who failed to observe the rites risked pulse-stealing fairies, sudden illness, or death, a gruesome metaphor perhaps for sacrifice or for the breakthrough of death. Cannibalism, proper, is harder to pin down in the Samhain context, but there are hints of ritualized consumption of the dead, or at least of humans in extremely rare rites. Some modern sources draw on early Christian polemics to claim that human flesh was offered to the gods at Samhain, though these accounts must be treated with caution. While no direct archaeological evidence of widespread cannibalism at Samhain has been universally accepted, the symbolic boundary between humans and animals, living and dead, was clearly porous. The sacrifice and possibly consumption of sacrificial victims may have reinforced that boundary crossing. Ultimately, much of the gruesome detail sits at the intersection of myth, folklore, and ritual memory rather than full historical certainty. But even that is enough to give the festival a terrifying dimension seldom acknowledged in mainstream descriptions. On the eve of Samhain, the entire ritual world shifted. Hearth fires were doused. A communal fire was lit on a hill. From that fire, the new hearth fire was drawn, and each household relit their own flames. Animals were slaughtered for the winter and may also have been sacrificed explicitly in ritual. Offerings of food and drink were left outside houses for the dead and the spirits. People danced, wore disguises, told ghost stories, and maintained vigil late into the night. The disguised forms may have been protective or deceptive toward spirits. Divination rituals were widespread: apples, nuts, cakes baked with hidden tokens, dream rituals where the dreamer hoped to glimpse their future spouse or fate. But beneath even these known practices lay a fear that the dead might take flesh, that vengeful spirits might snatch children or animals. Ritual order might collapse into terror. One text notes that the hero Nera entering a mound of the dead on Samhain, meeting corpses and spirits. This is no mere folklore. It is testimony to a worldview in which this night belonged to the liminal and the dreadful. Why does the memory of such terror persist? And why does the modern festival of Halloween carry vestiges of this horror? Part of the answer lies in human nature. We still play with death, disguise ourselves, light fires when the world grows cold, and tell ghost stories when the veil seems thin. The Christianization of Samhain sought to absorb and reframe it. The creation of All Hallows' Eve on 31st October and All Souls' Day on 2nd November responded to the ancient festival by offering a safe ritual for the dead. Costumes and guising survive, but the protective dread has mostly been forgotten. The living still don masks, visit homes, carry lanterns. Some pagan and neo-pagan groups explicitly revive the darker Samhain rituals: altars for the dead, silent suppers, vigil for unseen ritual fire. To some extent, the dark side of Samhain has been domesticated into commercialized Halloween, but the original impulse remains: to mock death, to walk among the dead, to burst into costume and fire when the world grows dark. The fact that we still light jack-o'-lanterns, tell ghost stories, and carve our turnips or pumpkins means that we too join a long chain of humans asking the same question: when the veil lifts, what waits for us on the other side?